you to Essence, and she could send you one of her roles.
It is kind of like a match. It's so matchmaking.
Yeah, it's like a matchmaker.
You'll see someone's resume and you're like, oh, cool. Like, again, like I'm working on this Nick consumer insights role. They're gonna be great. And then you talk to them, they're like, I've been doing a lot of consumer insights research. I'm really trying to get more experience on X side. So then again, I'll maybe like, oh, I'll flip her over to Jenna, or just recommend another role. So we never really know until we get on the phone. That's what makes it fun.
As Essence mentioned earlier, you can apply to multiple. Now, don't go applying to everything now. But like, if those two are truly what you want to do, then and they were on separate recs, then I would go ahead and apply to them both.
Mm-hmm. And there could be like 5 product roles and 15 project management roles, or 20 comms roles, and like again, it varies each summer based on what managers are looking for.
Yeah. Is it okay if we go back to the previous slide? We have some people asking how do you apply online, just so they can see it. Thank you.
Of course. What's up?
I was wondering if you guys would know, like, what are the specific things you would be doing if you were to get an internship in like production? Like, would you be on the set, or would you be more, working like behind the scenes and stuff because of the hybrid capabilities?
Yeah, we do have different opportunities in production. Some may be on set, some are in post-production. We do have a few different opportunities within that. Like I said, same thing, the recruiter will, discuss all of that with you on the phone.
For all the news and sports production, they do expect you to be on set, because with news, you're helping with a live show. And for sports, obviously fall is their busy season, but there's a lot of live tapings that happen in the studio. So the expectation is 100% in person.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a sophomore, so I'm just wondering a little bit more about like the internship, like process and application and stuff. I was just wondering, like, when you're applying for an internship with you guys, do you apply more for like your role of like what department you want to be in, or more like the location wise?
Yeah, more for the
microphone again, because all of a sudden it's working out.
Oh. Great.
So I actually unplugged it,
Oh,
and now they can hear a little better. So
Oh,
I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay, we'll
Project.
yeah. So the question was, do you apply for the location or the department? I would apply more for the department you want to be in, because we do have multiple locations of the same sorts of departments.
Okay. There is a screening question that asks what your preferred format is. So hybrid, in person, or virtual, as well as which time zone you'll be located in, so that we know where to align you to.
Thank you.
what office do you all work out of?
I guess we can say that.
Yeah, I work out of the Times Square location. I go 1 day a week, so you could call that working out of, but I'm in New York.
Yes. So I mostly work in LA, at home. I go in a couple of times, but I also spend a lot of time in Atlanta.
And I was in New York with Jenna for 10 years, and I'm actually in Virginia. I'm in Sterling.
Yeah. So when you applied to your roles, were you already in that area, or did you guys have to move?
So before COVID, we always were in person 5 days a week. So things have changed significantly. There were very few staff employees that worked from home. I mean, the company tried to be flexible depending on your situation. Maybe you're a caregiver or you have kids and you need to like leave early, but we were always in 5 days a week. So this has just been new for all of us. We recently went back to a hybrid setup, and I would say most other teams are probably in 2 days a week, maybe even 3.
Yeah.
But obviously Jenna, our team, just 1 day, which is nice. And I'm fully remote, which again was never really an option when I had first started working. I knew New York wasn't my end goal. I really ended up staying because I loved this job so much. So that was sort of like the one nice thing that came out of the pandemic, was just a little bit more flexibility. So it's really nice, again, depending on what works best for you and what you're looking for when you graduate.
Yeah, I was really upfront with my hiring, with my manager, about my like wanting to be in LA and Atlanta and wanting to mostly work from home. And so it's definitely a conversation. Like I always tell people, like, be upfront about that. Because even if, maybe you're like, I want to be 100% remote. The person's like, well, we need you on one day a week. It doesn't mean that you're done. Like, let's have a conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you never want to put yourself in a situation where you're like, yeah, I'll be in person. And then you end up doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, really think about, and I think it depends on like your stage of, where you are in work. I know a lot of folks who are just graduating college really do want that in-person experience. But you just have to think about what's important to you. And I do think that the great thing about Paramount is they want to hear that. So they want to understand and like meet you where you are and see what's possible.
And a lot of, for most entry level, I mean, relocation, it depends on team. Like we have to go to HR and see if the department can cover that sort of cost. So that again is something to think about. If you're looking at major cities, as we all know, it's super expensive. I mean, even DC is really pricey. So just again, just as Tariana mentioned, all things to think about and be upfront about.
We can go here.
So I am also a graduate student in the strategic communications program. And earlier, I think you mentioned a international comms team that you have. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's one of the internships that I recruit for, and I've also hired some entry-level roles for them as well. They just, basically do all of the events for the international team. So they do like the EMAs, which is the international VMAs. They do a lot of events like that, and basically, whatever we're doing internationally, they're really, in charge of, getting the word out.
But the two, I guess they're based out of the US and then London.
Yes. Yeah, they work very closely with the London office.
Press releases, putting out fires, all that stuff.
Can I ask some questions for the people online?
Yes.
The first one is, and you may have said this and they didn't hear it. Can rising sophomores apply to summer internships? And you can repeat that so they can hear it.
Yes, so can rising sophomores apply to the internships? There may be some technical roles that you can apply to, but we do, most of our internships are rising juniors and seniors. And then graduate and law students.
Any other ones online?
Yes.
One more.
Are the studio office locations listed the only locations, or are there more locations not listed? I'm assuming on the website.
There's more that are not listed. I would say the highest volume you'll see will be in New York, in Los Angeles, and then those are probably the two biggest.
Yeah.
We also have some small offices in like Chicago, even in DC we hire for the News Bureau, Fort Lauderdale, Arkansas, Minnesota. That's because Walmart and Target's headquarters are there, so consumer products. But yes, there are lots of offices that are not listed on there, but New York and LA are going to be the main two.
I'm just curious if you have any tips for cover letters. I usually find out like,
Ooh,
Don't do it.
that's my tip. For us, for Paramount. Let me just say that. I
would say don't submit, but we don't always read them.
read between the lines.
Some hiring managers may ask for, if it's like a writing type of job, that's a sample of your writing. But we usually don't really read them, so don't stress over it too much.
Cover letters are good if you maybe all your background's in finance and you're making a career change, or I don't know. Sometimes if I see someone apply to a role, I'm like, oh, that's so like their background's so interesting. I wonder what made them apply. But your resume is just going to be key. Don't stress over a cover letter.
And I'm going to say that it changes with every industry.
Yeah.
That's why I said at Paramount.
If they're saying cover letter, don't think that you're out of cover letter.
No.
Work with your career advisor on your cover.
And if you are going to include it, we can tell when it's just a standard one where you're just copying and pasting like the company name. So if you are going to include it, I would make sure it's like meaningful, that maybe you're picking out some of the bulleted responsibilities that you see in the role and saying, I noticed that your team's looking for X. In my previous role, I did X, Y, and Z. So we can tell the difference when you customize or when it's just a copy and paste thing.
And make sure you change the company to Paramount, because we've received, Dear Disney and stuff like that.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Who is next in the
because I'm majoring in film media studies and applied to, and I'm like thinking of my ultimate dream is to be like a director, screenwriter. Like, what kinds of like industry connections would you make, like in terms of like how, like to what extent, like are you like working directly with certain certain stars or certain like known crew members?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so, I mean, depending on the role, you know, you'll be working to, you know, different extents with different crew members, directors. But we're also very big on informational interviews. So, you know, if you are in a certain position, but you want to learn about a different area of the business, we encourage you to, you know, reach out to different people. I mean, you're in the company, so you might as well, you know, make as many connections as you can.
You're gonna have like a day-to-day supervisor. We require that they be manager plus level. But you may work with, obviously you're gonna work with others amongst your team. It's gonna vary. I mean, in terms of talent, I would probably say, I mean, our interns yeah,
You work with talent.
absolutely. I mean, and our Paramount, like interns on the lot have seen celebrities, of course, it is a film studio. So it's super cool. We see tons of people in the building. Always make sure to keep it professional, even if it's like this dream person you've been wanting to meet. But absolutely our goal, and again, we want it to be heavy project based. I know you had asked about what some of those responsibilities are. I would say in those production positions where you're on set, you're really acting as a production assistant. So you're going to learn what it would be like to be a PA, whether it's running to get props and helping, gosh, I don't know, just running all types of different errands. Acting just as the right hand to like an AP or a producer. So it's been really cool experience. Some interns might work with a specific show, or they're just supporting a brand on multiple projects. It could vary.
The only thing I'd add is networking starts before you even get the job. So make sure that you're doing that networking before, whether it's at Paramount or with other folks that are in the same line of business that you want to be. Because you never know like how that, you know, can turn into something for you. But I always tell people, like, don't wait until you get the job to start networking. Go start doing that right now. LinkedIn is free.
See what American alum are working at places that you want to be. That's like such a great connection to be like, hey, I'm currently at American. I see you're an alum. It's been a dream for me to work at X company. Like, do you have 10 or 15 minutes just to chat? So
I actually got my position through having informational interviews. So
there we go.
Yes. Okay, another question from online, but first, do everything they just said with LinkedIn and ask people for informational interviews. It's easier than ever now that everyone's online and doing Zoom.
Yes, it really is.
One question is, what technical positions are you talking about? I think one of you just mentioned technical positions. So what technical positions can sophomores apply to? I think you said juniors, seniors and above, but I can talk about that for a second and I have another question.
So our tech internships are open to current freshmen that will be rising sophomores. We have opportunities in software engineering, product, app development, data. So that could be business intelligence, data science, data strategy. We have UX, UI, we have game design and InfoSec. Did I say that? I was just at RIT the other week, so I'm brushing up on my skills. And then in terms of the programming languages, again, that's going to vary whether it's C++, Java, Python, etc. Sometimes there are a technical assessments as well, but they won't use like HackerRank or anything. That's only for full-time. So.
And those applications open, I think, like a couple of weeks ago. So definitely would encourage you to apply.
Yeah, because they're actually interviewing now for tech, so you'll want to move quickly.
They did open up their Handshake, and you can go from Handshake and it'll take you straight to Paramount. Another question from online, this is the last one for now. Again, she said she might have missed it.
It's okay.
If we want to work in person at a different location from where we live, will we have housing or some sort provided for us? Or if we have to fly out to a certain place, will we have to pay to travel out there? If you want to address like internship versus entry level roles and how that may differ.
So when you apply to a role, so let's say the marketing internships, you will select your preferred format. So if you say in person, it will ask which time zone. We do not cover the cost of housing or transportation. So I would recommend, unless, I would recommend applying to positions that are close to, where you're personal, where you live throughout the summer. It can get really pricey. I did NYU housing when I did my summer internship. I'm grateful that my mom supported me because it can be really tough. But again, don't feel like you're not getting a leg up by selecting in person. We are going to have a ton of virtual opportunities as well as hybrid. Every team's flexible, but I would say a lot of the descriptions we've seen for summer, they're open to virtual. For full-time, we have commuter reimbursement, or it's like a discount for commuter costs. But most roles are not going to pay for relocation or provide like a sign-on bonus. So again, that's something you have to think about when you're moving to a major city. And for full-time, in the job title, it will say remote or telecommuter if they're open to a fully remote employee. If not, when you click into the job, you'll see cities listed, and the expectation is that you work hybrid out of X whatever city you see there.
If you are part of like an external organization like a T. Howard Foundation, Emma Bowen, any of those like diversity leaning organizations, you should also check in with them. Sometimes they will work with you to provide you with resources. So whether that's on campus, off campus, really use your network to see, okay, if I want to be in LA, but LA is not home, let's see how we can make it happen. And you'd be surprised if that's where you want to be. But I would definitely just say use your network.
Mm-hmm. And I should say this past summer, there were some teams that flew their intern out maybe for a couple of days, or an intern was like, hey, I'm just going to be in LA for a couple of days. Like, I'd love to come in and see some of the offices. Those are all things we can make happen. And of course, if you're asked to help out with an event, we had a ton of interns help with like the VMAs or like VidCon. Those are things they would cover your hotel, all of your like food, travel, etc. That's something that would be covered.
I feel like there was one more question right here. Okay.
Since we're on the topic of, going out and moving, so I graduate in May and I'm planning to move out in the West. And I was wondering what departments are working in the LA and San Francisco locations.
You have everything.
I think everything. That's like one of the main headquarters. So,
So any brand, pretty much any brand that you saw, as well as Paramount Pictures, has a heavy West Coast presence. And we have teams that are bi-coastal. So pretty much any function I don't think there's any function that's not East or West Coast based. But yeah, I guess Paramount Pictures would be the outlier. For West Coast, we don't really have Paramount Pictures out on the East Coast.
We do just have Paramount Pictures communications team on the East Coast.
Shout out, Trudy. Okay, so a few more hands over here. We'll go here, here, here.
So I'm currently an international graduate student. I was curious if Paramount eventually offers like sponsorships for full-time roles, or people who are an intern who will eventually want to apply for a full-time role.
So for internships, it's easy for us to work with your school if you need just like a CPT or OPT. Full-time, it's just case by case. To be completely honest, it depends. I have seen sponsorship happen more with technical type positions than maybe areas like sales or marketing, but I would definitely encourage you to apply either way. And the recruiter will be transparent about that with you too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear more about your experience as an intern and how that gradually became a full-time position. What was that like?
Yeah. Well, first off, we're also spoiled. I've had the same boss for the past 10 years. We've had one boss leave that was hard. She went to go spend more time with her son, but I've had the same boss. I will say I did a lot of different internships in college. This was one of the most meaningful to me. I felt like the team quickly was so trusting in my ability to do work, obviously take on large projects. Part of it was that I was a college student that was thinking of ways to brainstorm and reach students on campus. But I got to create our social media accounts from scratch and do some really cool work with that. And at the end of the summer, I was actually interviewing students on my own to help place them for the fall, which was amazing. And just the feeling that I got when one or two of the students that I presented got hired, I still say that is the best feeling in the world when you talk to someone that's really passionate about our brand and you're able to give them a job offer. So yeah, it was really cool. I just learned the ins and outs of doing phone screens and interviews and placing candidates, and to be able to drive that process on my own was amazing. But we have really great bosses. They're super supportive. I like that they don't micromanage us, but they're supportive and they'll back us up if we need to. So I don't know, again, all things you should think about when you're talking or, figuring out who your future boss could be in the period that you work with. But it's been such an easy decision to stay here the past 10 years.
All right, thank you, back.
Hi, my name is Dan. I'm a grad student in communications. I was curious, what other communications teams are there at
So we have strategic communications as well. And then besides like the PR communications side, we also do have like social responsibility, social impact, roles like that as well.
So you're gonna have a lot of brand like comms or PR teams to Jenna's point, like a Nick publicity team or like an MTV entertainment group, like PR team. And then like corporate social responsibility, corporate comms is doing stuff on behalf of all the brands.
Yeah, we have corporate comms as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's it. Thank y'all so much for taking the time to come and chat with us. Please like connect with us on LinkedIn. We hope to see your resumes. Again, make sure to select the school campus visit when you apply. And yeah, just thank y'all.